Morning, everybody. I'm Senator Brian Schoenjahn, and I am chair of the Senate Education Appropriations Committee. And I'm here today just to discuss the actions that were taking place yesterday in the House. Yesterday, the House Republicans stripped a bill approved by the Iowa Senate and replaced it with their own version, which slashed funding by $115 million for our state universities, for our community colleges, for our workforce training programs, for Enrich Iowa, for our community libraries, for tuition grants, for our returning guardsmen. The Senate increased funding in our bill by $8.2 million for the University of Iowa, $11 million, and funding for ISU by $9.2. And all of those increases were wiped out and replaced with another round of cuts, including $3 million less for UNI, $19 million less for ISU, and $30 million less for the University of Iowa. Folks, we can and we must do better by higher education in the state of Iowa. We must do better for our K-12 schools. We have prided ourselves as the education state. Folks, it's even on our quarter, Foundations in Education. I am calling upon the House to step up to the plate and do what's right for Iowa, for our middle-class families, for our students and their increasing debt loads, and use our great university and higher education system in the state of Iowa to generate the research, to generate the business that drives our economy and moves Iowa forward. So I would hope that the folks in the House would rethink the positions that they took yesterday. We can afford to do this. Our reserves and excess reserves are at a point of recovery from the recession. The money is there, and it is time to step up for our families and our kids in the state of Iowa. And now I'll let Representative Winckler discuss a little more detail on this.
Thank you.
Representative Winckler.
Thank you. I think we need to be clear about what the education budget did. First of all, it not only changed the game for all of our higher ed, but it actually reduced funding from this year in our regent universities by $31 million. A significant reduction in funding. The other thing, we've spent a tremendous amount of time on early literacy conversations and the importance of those early literacy opportunities for our children. We have funding for that, which is the class size reduction and early literacy program. That funding in the House is being repurposed, not for early literacy initiatives, but for funding other components of the Ed Reform Bill. So at the same time, we've placed higher stakes on our youngest learners with the third grade retention. We have eliminated the resources from our school districts to assist our children in meeting those goals. It makes no sense to go that direction. Again, the resources are there, and we should be spending them in appropriate ways rather than repurposing them in inappropriate ways.
We'll be happy to take your questions.
How difficult is it going to be to resolve this difference?
Well, I think it's that point in the session where people of good faith should sit down and find common ground. We're ready, willing, and able to come to the table to have those discussions, but we think giving up on the next generation of workers in the state of Iowa is a mistake, and we're going to fight as hard as we can to make sure our children have access to a decent education in this state, and the House Republican budget does not do that.
Is this starting to shape up like a repeat of last year?
I'm not going to speculate on last year or what this year's going to. We think people of good faith can come together, do the right thing. We're going to work hard. Most of what we did is consistent with what the governor did. We're going to ask for his help to help move the Republicans in the House. We'll see where that goes.
What's the likelihood that the property tax reform issue will sprout yet this year?
I feel pretty good, like we're having good, productive discussions,
You are having
and
discussions on property tax reform?
yes,
Okay.
yes. We're having good, productive discussions. That's where we're at. The House has a version, the governor has a version, we have a version. Here's the common ground. It's really not complicated. The common ground is all three entities have $250 million on the table. Total commercial property taxes are $1.6 billion. Pardon me, $1.42 billion. And $250 million is 1/6 of that. You'd think we'd be able to calculate some way to come together and agree. We got $250 million on the table. Who's going to benefit from it? We have disagreements about that, but I think there's a real opportunity to figure out a way for us to come to agreement on it. The enemy of doing something on commercial property tax relief has been the reluctance of legislatures for 34 years to take a step. Not to completely resolve the problem. Nobody has a magic solution that completely resolves the problem, but take a step. And you would think $250 million would be a significant step in that direction. So we're ready, willing, and able to work on that. And the common ground between all three plans, $250 million of state dollars to replace commercial property taxes.
So you're having these conversations with the House?
Oh, I'm having the conversations with the House, I'm having the conversations with the governor, I'm having the conversations with our own caucus, I'm having the conversation with Democrats in the House and Republicans in the House. Yes, we're having conversations.
What's the status of the education reform in the Senate?
We have a bill that's got 25 or 30 ideas in it. Probably half of those ideas are shared between the governor and the House, and then some additional ideas. We're going to work through that in our chamber and move something forward.
Do you anticipate taking up the House bill and amending it and having a bill?
We haven't made the decision on what the vehicle will be. We're trying to the process of passing the bills and daring the other chamber to vote against them isn't particularly productive. We think more productive is to have discussions about where our common ground is, try and put that into a package in some place, and what the vehicle for that is, we'll figure that out once we believe we've come pretty close to an agreement.
But there's differences on the higher ed levels, there's differences on the education reform piece, there's differences on class size, there's differences on allowable growth. Do you resolve all these together? Do you pick them off one at a time? How do you proceed?
We can only speak about one thing at a time, so I suspect our resolution will be one at a time.
But they're all related, they're all linked.
Maybe in your mind.
They are in my mind.
Okay, good for you. I'm going to take them one at a time. I'm going to look for the common ground and try and govern well. Anything else?
Do you think you'll debate the nuclear bill next week?
Remains to be seen. Don't know the answer to that yet.
What's your expectation on when the session will adjourn?
In a timely way.
About what date?
Oh, date? I was thinking before midnight. Yeah.
What hinges on the nuclear discussion? What are you considering?
Whether there's critical mass, maybe I shouldn't use that word, to get to the issue in the Senate. We continue to have concerns about whether consumers are protected enough. So we'll explore that. Thanks for coming today.